Now, let's talk about what is a powered industrial truck. First off, let's start with what it's not. Let's emphasize what it is not. It's not a taxi, okay? Now, what does that mean? No passengers, okay? You're not going to ride anybody. Okay, it's not a battering ram, meaning that you're not going to take certain things out of your way, you're going to push them out of your way with the fork truck. It's not a door opener or a closer. Now, I have been in situations where, the dock doors are heavy. They're a little bit off center and they don't move easily. So let's just put the forks under them. Let's raise them up. But that's not the purpose of a forklift. It's not a go-kart, right? No races. And it's not a weapon or a demolition derby entrant. You're not going to drive it around out there and try to beat people with it. It's not an extension ladder. Now, you may have seen this someplace around, okay? But notice here's the big truck. Here's the big lift with the little lift. Here's the load. Now, collectively, how many dollars do you think they have at risk there? Several thousand, right? How many lives do they have at risk there? Here's a guy right here, and here's one right here, okay? So yeah, plus if this thing were to fall on this guy. So it's pretty significant, okay? But it's not an extension ladder. However, let me make a point with you here, so that you know when this comes up. You can use a forklift to elevate a worker, provided, okay, the lift is equipped with an approved cage and the worker is wearing fall protection. So now, if there's a cage built by and approved by the manufacturer, it can't be just a wooden cage platform, right? But it has to be approved by the manufacturer, which means that it's attached to the forks properly, and then the guy inside the cage has got on a harness and a lanyard and he's wearing full fall protection. Then you can lift, if you will, elevate the employee. And there are times when that's appropriate to do, and times when it's inappropriate. I was going into a little hardware store, it was a couple of years ago, it was the winter before last when we had a lot of snow. And as I walked into the front door, there was an awning above the door, and it had probably about 2 or 3 feet of snow piled up there, okay? As I was walking in, I heard noise, and I looked around, here come a fork truck coming along with a guy standing on the forks, okay? They drove him up to that awning, they raised him up, okay? He took a rake and raked the snow off, all right? Now, that's a legitimate need and a legitimate use of the forklift if you've made this kind of an arrangement. But just standing on the forks is not appropriate. You're not supposed to do that, can't do that. Now, typical fork truck components are these, and just as a brief review, okay, mast, this is the lifting mechanism and your forks, okay, all of the steering wheel, seat belts have to be there, supposed to be there, various controls are there. Now, I say that because the way these are configured vary from truck to truck. And so when you look at different kinds, all right, here is a counterbalanced rider truck. Now this comes from you're out in the gear shop, okay? That's the kind that they have over there. This is your Crown, what is called a reach type. This is the more common one that you have out there. Okay, again, they have different features, different methods of driving them are required, but they basically do the same thing for you. This is a tug. Again, it's out there, you hook it you have a trailer hitch, hook it onto the little trailers you have out there and you move materials. This is a pallet jack. Again, it is because it's powered, it falls under this regulation. You have to be trained on how to operate it. I was in CVS Pharmacy last week, and I saw a young lady come out. She looked about 16, really did. Just one of the employees in there driving one of these. And I, always crossed my mind, reckon she's been trained on that? I don't know, but she's supposed to be because it's a powered industrial truck, considered to be one. Now, there are some powered vehicles out there that are not considered powered industrial trucks, and you guys have this one and you have this one. Now, basically the distinction is this. If the vehicle is designed in a manner to carry things that you can't carry, all right, it's a powered industrial truck. If it's designed to carry packages that are small enough for you to carry, it's not classified as a powered industrial truck. Now certainly you can pile enough on here and on here that you can't carry it. But you can see they're designed to carry small packages. Okay, so they're not considered powered industrial trucks. This is your scissor lift out there because it is a personnel lift. Okay, it's a worker lift. It is not a powered industrial truck. Now you may raise it up and you may take something off the shelf and you may set it down, all right? But you're just raising that worker up and down. You're not carrying and you're not moving. You're not stacking, tier, or pushing or pulling any materials. Right? Training for these fall under the manufacturer's recommendations. You still should need to be trained. Okay, there should be some time when you go out there and somebody watches you operate it, but it's not as formal as it is with powered industrial trucks like we're going through today. Some of the general requirements for a truck are these. Number one, it has to meet ANSI standards. Now, ANSI is the American National Standards Institute, and it's ANSI that determines in many, many cases throughout our working world all the specifications for the things that we use. For instance, if you guys wear hard-toed shoes out there now, right? Okay, those have to be approved by ANSI, okay? You wear safety glasses, they have to be approved by ANSI. OSHA does not approve nor certify anything. It's always ANSI. And without our ever really discussing it behind the scenes in our life, ANSI is there in many, many, many cases. But all trucks have to be approved by them. Now notice what it says, standard incorporated into OSHA standard. OSHA has within it a regulation that says if we incorporate a standard into ours, you have to abide by that standard. So whatever that ANSI B 56-1-1969 says, we have to do that. Trucks cannot operate in hazardous atmospheres unless they're protected or shielded. Again, behind the scenes, our government has determined that there are 3 different kinds of atmospheres out there that are potentially hazardous. One is a situation in which you have flammable gases or vapors in sufficient quantity to ignite. Now think about this. If you're working in a manufacturing plant and you're manufacturing paints, all right? Paints in many cases are volatile organic chemicals. They'll create vapors. So you can imagine this, if I'm driving a forklift, I don't want to drive that forklift back there, start it up and we get a spark and now we've got a boom in the night. Okay, so the truck has to be modified for that particular atmosphere. Same thing with combustible dust. I don't know if you guys saw the weekend where the mill up in Atchison where it blew up about 2 months ago. I don't remember when it was, but I think 6 people lost their lives. That's just combustible dust. And what it said in the paper, I didn't know this, combustible dust, grain dust, is 9 times more explosive than coal dust. Okay? But any dust is combustible if there's enough of it. So if you're going to, again, you're going to drive a forklift into that environment, it has to be modified for that purpose. And then lastly there, fibers or fillings. In many facilities, in many manufacturing facilities, a byproduct of what they do back there is filings and fillings that come off, okay? So they have to be aware that we're creating, again, a potential fire hazard, and our fork trucks have to be modified for that reason. All trucks should have some kind of a label or a plate attached verifying the atmospheric approval. So again, what it's to tell you is this vehicle is appropriate for this particular atmosphere. If it's not, you shouldn't drive them there. Some other things required by OSHA: must have an overhead guard. That's to keep things from falling back on you so that you're protected. Fuel must be stored, transferred in approved containers and in designated areas. In other words, we're going to handle any potential fire source in a manner that's safe for everybody. Changing and charging battery-powered units must be done safely. Again, we're going to do that in an area that's designed to do that. And lights must be activated in low-light areas. Now, you guys don't have this particular problem, but I do have customers, and work with some people, that they go in and out. Okay? They drive outside and do something with the trailer, and then they drive back inside. So they always have to be aware of the lighting in those situations. And then lastly, trailers must be chalked prior to entry. Again, this is a general requirement. You guys do some loadout out here. I don't know who does it, whichever way direction it is, but it is required that before you go into a trailer, you make sure that it's safe to go into the trailer, including chalk wheels if that's the case. Now, some of the hazards that we get into, and here's what I want you to remember. Any hazard that you confront every day, pretty soon becomes old hat. You don't even think about it. It's just there. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, if you go over on 291 headed down to Independence from Liberty, there's a big tower on the west side over there. It's part of a cement plant. There's a mine underneath it that goes 700 feet down, and then everything goes up in this tower. The tower's about 390 feet. When they were building it, I was over there doing some safety oversight. And so they said to me one afternoon, "We need for you to go up there." And I said, "Now, wait a minute, you want this guy to go up there?" And they said, "Yeah, we need you up there about 350 feet. So, okay, I get on this rickety old elevator and I go up there, and we get off on a platform at about 350 feet. It wasn't finished, so it was open to the air, and the wind was just blowing to beat 60. All right? Now, I'd never been up there before. What do you think I was doing? I was pretty well aware of where I was, right? I was pretty well aware. The steel workers have been up there all the time. They were tied off, but they weren't thinking anything. They walk over to the edge, 350 feet straight down. They'd say, see that down there? We need to fix that. Walk over to the other side, see this? We need to fix it. What was happening? They've been up there all the time. Wasn't a hazard to them anymore. Okay? Same thing happens with you guys driving a fork truck. You just drive it day in and day out, and pretty soon you think, oh, this is no big deal. But it's still a hazard because of the way they're built and the way they operate. You want to be aware that they're heavy. Okay? They're heavier in many cases than cars, automobiles. They have a poor braking system. Okay? They're not designed to be doing 65, 70 miles an hour and you hit your brakes and stop. Okay? Often they're only on 2 wheels. Right? They're top heavy and unstable. And we'll come back to this, but every time you pick up a load and move that load, the stability of that truck changes. And so you have to be aware of that depending upon what you're doing. Okay. They have solid suspension. Again, it's not a soft ride, right? It's a bumpy ride. Soft ride because of the way they're designed. And they steer from the rear. Now if you look at that, it looks like this. Here's an automobile. It steers from the front. And you can see when you turn it from the front, then you don't get the outswing, if you will, of the rear end. Now look at the fork truck. When you steer it from the rear, it swings the rear out. And if you're not aware of that, then it can create a problem for you. So they steer differently than a car. They have restricted visibility. You've always got the mast in front of you, okay? And therefore, when you add a skid of materials or 2 skids, whatever you got, pallets, now you've got an even bigger problem. So you always need to be aware of that. You have restricted visibility. Often operated in heavy pedestrian traffic. And you are. You got people running around every place. Now there may be places where pedestrians are not supposed to be. Okay, that's all right. You still have to be, as an operator of the fork truck, you're the one that's responsible for making sure that we don't run over those kinds of people.